Day 5 of visiting the Aeluma headquarters. They were a $350 million company. Now they're only $280. Just came out with a deep dive on Substack, and I went one by one. I was pretty surgical. I have 3 main points of contention. One, you're competing with the best in the world. You're competing with Coherent. You're competing with Lumentum. And the fact we know they don't work early, and on a Friday, the parking lot is half empty. And I'm pretty sure, again, there's nobody at the desk. Photonics is one of the most competitive industries in the world. Semiconductors in general. You are competing with Jim Anderson of Coherent. You've got a team of, 1,000 engineers that you're going up against, and you think you're going to disrupt them. I don't think so operationally. We're in Santa Barbara, California. Everyone's chill here. Clemkin has a cushy job. I don't think so. You don't have to wake up as early as I do and work at 4:30 on a Friday if you're in a sales job or something like that. If you want to beat the best in semiconductors, you got to work harder than I do. 2, the capital equation makes no sense. They like to say that they're a capital light company. That basically means that they just want to invent a prototype, do an academic paper, be like, ooh, look what I made. And then somebody is going to make it for them. They're not going to have to put up capital, and they just get, huge margins. I'm sure they're expecting a 40% gross margin. In reality, they're just going to get a royalty. So it might be single digits. If they're lucky, 12, 13%. And that is if they get a foundry partner. The likelihood of this company getting a foundry partner is 0 in my estimation. They've mentioned on calls, we're working with our partners, we're scaling it up. And meanwhile, they don't announce it. Everyone, first of all, they love to show off their facilities. I have not found any photos, especially that's facing near the block is hot, but I'm well within my rights, as the cops already explained. Where was I? Tower Semiconductor, Coherent, competitors, you could do a research lab. They're not going to get up to scale. There are no foundry partners, especially as Clemkin saying, he's going, we've been onshoring. We've always been in the US. We're going to continue to be in the US. It's there's no fit. There's absolutely no fit for you. Global foundries, I could go down the list. What they do have is a boutique foundry, basically what research labs do. And what they've done is they're going to manufacture wafers, keep on doing it. Okay, you get a good one. All right, let's go with that. That is not an indication of what scales. They have no data that they've put out on yields. All of these guys know the yields, yet they're selling more stock than has ever been invested in this company in R&D. Why would insiders who believe they have a transformative semiconductor company, when the competitors are hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, why would they be selling stock? It's not like they're poor. They were never poor. And they've all sold more than they've probably ever made in any other investment or the rest of their career. Of course, we know that if they had a partner and it was Global Foundries, they would be happy to announce that. That's just the way that it works in semiconductors. You are so happy that you have a partnership. He's been walking this line where he's our partners, we're negotiating with partners, we have 4 options, and he's doing the same thing on a customer list as they've taken out their consumer product line. The majority of their revenue, 67%, comes from 2 government customers. And again, it's people are talking about, DARPA. It's do you know how many companies get invested in by DARPA and fail? I'm sorry, that does not justify a 70 times price to sale. Not only that, but what DARPA has you research is not necessarily transferable towards the market that you're going for, which for them, they say is consumer names. They, ultimately are probably going to have the highest likelihood of going into mobile phones, maybe AR, right? But we're talking about LiDAR. We're talking about sensors. We're talking about SWIR. These markets that they say are $3.5 billion, I don't even know where they got that from. Honestly, I've read the analyst reports. They said 3 and 3.5 billion. Every single thing that I can find out there is 800 million. And again, CEO Clemkin says that he's going to get most. We think we're going to get most of that market by 2029. Well, the benchmark analysts, somehow their guidance for this year, 2026, was 7 million. It's actually now, he's saying, between about the same that is this year, no growth, call it $4.7 million. Their revenue this past quarter was actually less than a year ago. So the revenue is going down. If they have such perfect, Palantir-esque relationships with government, why is the government paying them less? And even if they did get a foundry partner, which if they did, and if it was global foundries, I would honestly probably cover. I would immediately come out and make a statement. Hey, listen, I got this wrong. I'm going to look into this and I'm going to go into the contract, because they could easily get crushed by one of these companies if they had the right technology. Let's just say that they did. They haven't, in my opinion, invested enough money to do anything transformative. What they're saying that they're doing, in-gas on silicon, has been attempted for 30 years. And Klemkin admits that, but he's like, oh no, but we figured it out. The reason why their manufacturing is so hard to do is because it is gallium arsenide. Gallium arsenide cannot be in even remotely the same place as anything that is a silicon product, because it contaminates it and it decreases the yield. They would basically have to throw out all of that expensive silicon that takes a long time to make. And obviously it's a bunch of money. It might even ruin the machines. So it has to have zero atmospheric exposure with other customers. So they expect when the US manufacturing across the world and in Taiwan is completely maxed out and going to the people that are the best customers with the best relationships, they expect a US foundry to basically essentially build them a whole new facility on their own dime. This is an unproven thing. So if they go in and let's just say that they have the nuts and the bolts and they go, okay, well, listen, this prototype, it's really good IP, it's really good. The partner's gonna go in there, maybe they agree. Maybe they say, okay, that's really good IP. We'll give you a 5% royalty. And they'll be like, no, we can't do that. We're like, oh, we can't? Why not? It is a power dynamic in high-tech manufacturing. And in reality, I don't think their tech is that good. The reason why I don't think their tech is that good is because it doesn't stack up to indium phosphide. What they're saying is they're like going into quantum computing and all of these other things. Well, the quantum dots are it's 87% as good as what they're supposedly displacing, which is indium phosphide. It doesn't make any sense. Then on optics, if you want to go transceivers, right? When it comes to transferring data, they say that they're cheaper than indium phosphide. But the thing is, copper is cheaper than that. So where do they fit in a market? They're not as good as indium phosphide, but they're less expensive. Supposedly, we don't know anything because they're just claiming that. But they're definitely not as cheap as copper. So where would they fit in that equation? This company, the reason why Craig Hallum, which is essentially a bucket shop from Minnesota, the reason why they uplisted them from OTC markets onto the NASDAQ and then did a follow-on equity round, because they released an academic paper about their silicon. The thing is, it was co-authored by UCSB colleagues of Klemkin. And they came in with a quarter wafer. So they're claiming that they know something scales, but they can't even give us a full wafer. So essentially what that is just an academic paper. And again, now this is a $280 million company. It's whatever. They have $39 million. They would have to spend all of that $39 million with a partner and try to get to small scale manufacturing. If that worked, they would need to raise another 150. Having a medium scale facility when there's $5 million machines that operate in here would cost $150 to $200 million, something that they don't have. But the game here is that Craig Hallum and Benchmark are co-runners of every single offering. It was originally just Craig Hallum, then Benchmark joined. Combined, they've made between $8 and $9 million for my estimate. So they don't care if this company works out. They just want to collect the fees. And the longer that they can pump it up, the longer that they can collect fees. Based on the only two analysts out there, both of them, their firms have a clear conflict of interest. In fact, it's, disclosed, it has to be disclosed. They are committing, in my opinion, research war crimes on this company, especially their assumptions to justify the valuation.